Hi there, my name's Vince from mymatevince.com, and in this video today I'm going to show you how you can get all these controllers and more working on the old Nintendo Wii. So each of these controllers will be time-stamped in the description below, so if you're interested in the U-Force, for example, then you can go straight to that point in the video and watch that section. So sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy it. Let's get started. Now before we start, the controllers you see in this video are only going to work on games that support the use of the classic controller. So similar to this one up here, these are both third-party ones, but this is a classic controller and this black one is a classic controller Pro. So if the game supports these, then any controller that you see in this video will work. Now if you're wondering what games do and don't, you can check on Google or you can have a look at the back of your game. So if we have a look at this one, this is Doctor Who, and up the top here you can see the controllers that it supports, and it doesn't list a classic controller, so this would not work with any of the controllers you see in this video. But if you were to have a look at Mario Kart Wii, then you will see here, this one here, that it is the classic controller, so this is definitely going to work. And also if you look at Sonic Unleashed, again you can see the classic controller here, so you know that's going to work. Basically, most of the Virtual Console games are going to work using any controller in this setup. Right, okay, let's get started. To use the NES controller on the Wii, we need to use this adapter here, made by Mayflash, and it plugs into the bottom of the Wiimote, and then you can see the adapters here. In the box you'll also get this short little conversion cable that allows you to plug in the original NES controller into here, and then it will allow it to work on the game. Right, let's show you a bit of gameplay. So you can see Mario up on screen there, and when I move here, obviously it's moving up on screen. I've got A to jump, and then I've got B to dash. And then this one will be my pause menu. Right, okay, and as far as lag's concerned, it seems to be very good. So every time I press jump, you can see that it's pretty responsive up on screen there. By using adapters, you must introduce a bit of lag, but not that you would notice in normal gameplay. Right, okay, let's move on to a new game and another controller. The Super Nintendo Entertainment System controller. So it's the same setup as the NES controller, and that is the Mayflash adapter plugged into the bottom of the Wiimote. So we have our Wiimote here, Mayflash adapter plugged into the bottom of it, and then we've got our wired SNES controller plugged into there. Right, let me show you Super Mario Bros. 3. Okay, if you look up on screen, you can see Mario moving left and right. We're using A to jump. And again, as far as lag's concerned, seems to be pretty good. And we're using B to dash. Right, let's move on. The Nintendo 64 controller. Now, this one here does take quite a bit of setting up. You can just see it's moving around up on screen here when I use the analog stick. But once you get it working, it is quite good. And remember as well, you've got the Virtual Console with all the Nintendo 64 games, so if you like playing them, then you might want to use an N64 controller to do so. But we need to run it through multiple adapters to get it to work. So to begin with, we need to run it through a Brook game converter into the Wii, and this is a PS4 to Wii U version. And then it needs to go into a Cronus Max, and then after the Cronus Max, we need to use this N64 controller adapter made by Mayflash. So let me just show you what the setup is. So as you can see now, I've got the back of the Wii here. I've got the Brook adapter plugged into here. Now, this is working wirelessly, so this syncs up to the Wii. Even though I've got it plugged into the USB here, I can plug it into any USB and it will work. So for example, if you just want to use your phone charger in another part of the room, then you will be able to do it. You don't have to have this plugged into the Wii because it's working wirelessly with the Wii itself. Then after that, I've got the Cronus Max plugged into that, and then after that, I've got the adapter here with the N64 controller going into it. Also, you're going to have to program the Cronus Max so the buttons are correct on here, because what you will find is every time you press up on the gamepad, it will also do up and the start button at the same time. So to remedy that, you're going to have to reprogram the buttons on the Cronus Max. Right, let me show you a bit of Mario Kart Wii. So I'm using A to accelerate, B to brake and also go backwards. And then I'm going to be using A and B together to drift around the corners. And I'm going to be using Z at the back to do the power up or the weapon. Okay, so look, Z at the back now. Z, Z, A and B together to drift. And it is working as analog, so when you do it a small bit, it moves a small bit, and when you do it a lot, it moves a lot. Right, let's move on to the next one. The GameCube controller. Now, the first generation of the Wii also allowed full use of GameCube games and GameCube accessories. So if you have a look up here, we have the 4 ports for 4 GameCube controllers and also 2 ports for memory cards. So we don't need any adapters to do this because it's been built into the Wii itself. Let me show you Mario Kart Double Dash. So that's a good thing with the Wii, is the fact that you've got full use of the GameCube games as well. So you're getting 2 consoles for the price of 1. And on Mario Kart Double Dash, this is where you can switch players by pressing the Z button up here. Right, okay, let's move on to the next one. Now, a very easy way to set up the PlayStation 4 controller, the Nintendo Switch Pro controller and also the Wii U controller on the Wii is to use this little adapter here. It's a retro receiver made by 8BitDo. Now, the only problem with it is that although it's really easy to set up and it's really cheap, it doesn't give us the full range of buttons. So this is actually made for the classic mini systems, you know, the NES and the SNES systems, and being so, it doesn't allow you to use, for example, the shoulder buttons like they're going to be used as a classic controller on the Wii. So it might be useful to you if, for example, you wanted to do some very simple games like the Mario Brothers games, in which case then, get this, it's really easy to set up. But if you were to, for example, use it on Mario Kart Wii, what would happen is these buttons will work fine and you can use the analog sticks, that all works well. The problem is that when it comes to drifting around the corners, every time you hit this button here or this one, it's going to drift around the corner, but at the same time it's going to use your weapons. So normally you would drift around the corner here and then you would use this button to, for example, throw your shell. But every time you hit this button, you're going to drift around the corner and throw the shell at the same time. So it's not ideal. Later on in the video, I'm going to show you the way you can set these up working properly as a classic controller. But I just quickly want to show you this because it's so easy to set up and it is still useful for a lot of games out there. So all we have to do is take our receiver. Now, out of all of them, this is probably the easiest way of setting it up. And all we got to do is plug it into the bottom of the Wiimote like so. Now you can see that there's a little light flashing there. We just need to tap this button to get our controllers to sync, and now it's going to start flashing fast. If, for example, we were going to do the PlayStation 4 controller, hold down share and then hold down the PlayStation button until it starts strobing. There you go. And now they're going to be looking for each other, and then in about 20 or so seconds it's going to pair up and you'll be able to use it. There we go. And now if you have a look up on the screen, you can see now when I use this, it moves around. And you can see that the finger here is moving around the place when I use the left analog stick. Right, let's show you the other ones. If I wanted to do the Nintendo Switch Pro controller, I just need to hit the sync button up here until these lights start to flash. And again, tap this little red button. And these two will pair up. Now, with this adapter here, you can only use one controller at a time because remember, it's connected just to one Wiimote. And again, you can see now that this is now paired up. And lastly, just quickly show you the Wii U controller. And it is really responsive when you do this. Again, it doesn't feel like there's any lag or anything. It works well, but only on the games where it allows you not to worry about the shoulder buttons. Now, there might well be some update out there for this. I haven't really done much research into it. So the manufacturers might well have already come across this. They might already know that it works on the Wii and the Wii U, for example, in which case then there might be an update out there. Or, if they're willing to do it, then maybe they can update it to make it work. Right, okay, let's just sync this one up. This is the Wii U controller. There we go. And again, you can see there, it's working. Right, let me show you the proper way to do this now, where you can have the full range of buttons for any game that supports a classic controller. Now, this next setup will basically allow you to use the majority of the modern controllers. For example, Switch Pro controller, Wii U, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 3, Xbox Bluetooth, Xbox 360 wired, even the Xbox Elite controller. Right, to do this, what we need is the two adapters here. We need a Brook Game Converter, that's a PlayStation 4, PlayStation 3 to Wii U model, and we also need a Magic NS adapter. So what we've got is, we've got our Brook adapter plugged in straight into the Wii, but this can be plugged into any USB power supply. For example, we could plug this into a phone charger if we wanted it. It doesn't have to be plugged into the Wii, because this is going wirelessly, so it's synced up wirelessly to the Wii using the little sync button here. Now, if you're wondering which firmware to download onto this, you need to go onto the Brook website, you need to go to support, and then you need to go to Wii U, click on the Wii U icon, and then on there you will see an option for the firmware for the classic controller, and that's what you want to download onto here. Then on the Magic NS, we need to put it to the blue mode. If any of you are familiar with these, you know that there's different modes. For example, red for Switch, and you can have that pink purple one, you can have green for X input. Well, at the moment it's on the blue mode, and that's the one where it will allow everything here to work. So to get it to work, what we need to do is we need to pair up each of these wirelessly with the Magic NS adapter. I'm going to show you that in a minute. When it comes to the PlayStation 3, this one here, it will work wirelessly, but just to get it to pair up, we have to use a mini USB cable. So plug that into there and then into here. Now, rather than going through every single one individually, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you the setup of one of them, and then we're going to basically go on to Mario Kart Wii, and we're just going to do a bit of gameplay, and I'm just going to show you each of them working just to basically prove that they do work. So, for example, to set up the Wii U here, what we would have to do is we would have to put this into pairing mode. So we just need to hit that sync button there, and you can see now that the lights are flashing. We then need to, there's a little button just underneath here, and we just need to tap the little button. It's so fiddly. There we go. And you can see that's flashing fast. And now, in a few seconds, it will sync up. And there you go, it's already synced up. And now if you have a look up here, you can now see that when I move the left analog stick, it will move around the place. So let me get Mario Kart Wii in there, and then I'm going to show you each of the controllers working. So here we have the Wii U. You can see analog sticks working properly, and it works just like an analog stick. So little movements go to small amounts, and then when you hit it more, it goes to more. I'm using right up here to do my drifting, and then to do the power up, I'll be using left. See? Okay, and then B for brake and reverse. Right, let me show you the Nintendo Switch controller. And again, you can see A to accelerate, B to brake and go backwards. Now, rumble does not work on here, but yet when you go to the actual menu, so if I was to go to the home screen here and just go to Wii menu, then when I go over it, I don't know if you can hear it, but if you listen, there, you can hear that little noise there. So vibration does work, it's just that it's not allowing the vibration in the actual games itself, because from memory with the Wiimote there's a tiny bit of vibration, but normally with the Wiimote what actually happens is you have the sound coming through here, so it makes the noise of the vibration through the speaker, but when you're using other controllers to it, then you don't get the vibration in the actual game itself. And just to show you, because it's thinking that the Brook converter there is player 1. Now when I wobble this controller here, it's jumped to player 2. But you can see that the shoulder buttons work. That's going to be looking back, and R for drifting around the corners, and then L for the power up. Obviously the snapshot doesn't work because that's not a feature of the Wii. Right, let me show you the PlayStation 4 controller. Right, so if you have a look, I've got accelerate here, and I'm going to press X to brake and also to go backwards, and then I'm going to be using R1 to do the drifting around the corners, like so, and then we're going to be using L1 to do the power-ups. So let me just get something up here. And now watch, L1, drift, L1. So you can see they both work independently of each other. Right, let's move on to the next one. Now, when it comes to the PlayStation 3 controller, it will work wirelessly, but to begin with, we just have to plug in a mini USB cable into it and also put that into the Mayflash Magic NS adapter. Hit the PlayStation button, and then you can see now that it's synced up on here. So now I can unplug that lead, and you will see it will still pair up. You can see there, player 1, and again, if you have a look now, see the buttons are the same as a PlayStation 4 controller, so we're using 1, so in other words L1 for, R1 for drifting, and we're going to be using L1 for the power up, so if you have a look there now. And we're going to be using X to brake and go backwards. D-pad again doesn't do anything, it's just the analog stick. Okay, let's do the next one. Now when it comes to the Xbox 360 controller, it's just a case of plugging it in. And you will see now that when I hit the Xbox button, it's going to jump to player 1 here, and now it will be working again just like the Pro controller. So this is going to be accelerate, and this is going to be B and back. So A for braking and reverse, B to accelerate, left analog stick for the steering, and we're going to be using the right bumper for drifting, and then the left bumper for the power-ups. Right, let me show you the wireless Xbox. There we go, so they've now paired up, and now, as you can see, this is now working up on screen. B to accelerate, A for brake and also reverse, and right bumper to drift around corners, and it'd be left bumper for the power-ups. So with the Xbox One Elite controller, the easiest way to use it is via a micro cable straight into it, because remember, this doesn't have Bluetooth built into it. So if I just plug in the USB cable into there, you will see that it will just sync up. And there we go, you can see it's now working. And again, exactly the same as before, we're going to be using the right bumper to drift, and then the left bumper for the power-ups, and then A to brake and reverse. Now, if you did want to use this wirelessly, there is a way to do it. It's using one of these X1 adapters. So these little adapters here that take the place off the battery compartment, like so. That's it, one there. Now, I am having trouble getting this to connect up to here, but what you can do is you can connect this up to the retro receiver that I showed you before. Again, you're going to have problems with the shoulder buttons, but at least it will work wirelessly. But when it comes to the Xbox One Elite controller, you might not mind using it via a wired connection, and it works well when it's wired. Right, let's move on. If you want to use your PlayStation 1 controller or your PlayStation 2 controller, which is the DualShock 2, then we can do this as long as the game allows GameCube controllers. So for example, this is Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and if you have a look at the back here, you can see the GameCube controller. So these controllers will work. All we're doing is using this adapter here. It's a 3-in-1 converter, and this is it here, and it's plugged into the GameCube ports at the top. And then if you have a look here, you can now see that it's moving around here, and when I do the right analog stick, it's going to move the camera. Right, okay, let's show you a bit of gameplay. Now with this one, rumble is working, so it is actually rumbling. You can see there. Right, okay, and let me just show you the PlayStation 2 controller working. So let's unplug that. Plug in this one. And again, the vibration's working on this as well. So if I put it on the table here, you should hear it vibrate. There you go. Right, let's move on to the next one. To use a keyboard and a mouse on the Wii, it is possible. So if I move my mouse around now, you can see that it's corresponding to the movements up on the screen here. Now, to get this to work, we need two adapters. We need the Brook Game Converter, the PS4 to the Wii U one, and the Cronus Max. So let me just quickly show you the setup here. So I've got my little laptop here. You have to run a program on the Cronus Max called X-Aim. And basically what it's doing is just converting the key inputs and the mouse inputs to controller inputs. So from here, we've got a USB hub coming out of here, purely because I haven't got enough USB ports on here. I've got my wireless adapter for my mouse, I've got my cable going to my keyboard, and then from here, I've got the USB to micro USB that goes into the programming port on this little Cronus Max here, and then the Cronus Max goes into the Brook converter, which is working wirelessly to the Nintendo Wii U, even though, like I said before, it is plugged into the Wii U, that can be plugged in anywhere. Right, let me just show you a little bit of gameplay on this. So this is Fast Racing League. Obviously you can set up the controls however you want. I've just got it so the mouse is working as my left analog stick, and then I've got the W, which is going to mimic the A, and S on the keyboard is going to mimic the B. Right, so I've got W to go forward, and I've got S for brake and reverse. I can move the mouse left and right to move it up on screen there. You can see it going from left to right. I can do left click to switch to phases, and I can do right click for boost. So now if I press the right click, it's going to boost, you see. Right, okay, you get the idea of that one. Here we have the F500 Fight Stick from Mayflash, and this one is really easy to set up. It's just a USB cable coming out of the Fight Stick straight into the Brook converter here, the PS4 to Wii U converter. And if we have it set to XY axes here, and also the PS3 input, so the D input, you can see now we've got the pointer around the screen here. Alright, let me show you a game working on it. So here we have a bit of FIFA 11. Right, okay, let's move on. The Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons working as a pair, so it doesn't work as a single Joy-Con, but it does work when you pair them together. To get this to work, you need the PS4 to Wii U Brook adapter plugged into the Wii, so it's working wirelessly, and then we've got the Magic NS adapter plugged into the Brook converter, and it's still on blue mode like it has been on the rest of the video. Right, okay, this is FIFA 11. Let's resume the match. Right, okay, so you get the idea of it. Let's move on. To use the Sony PlayStation navigation controller, we need to plug it into the Magic NS adapter here, which then goes onto the Brook converter here. Now, the problem with this is it's a one-handed control, so you're going to be very limited to the amount of games you can play with, because obviously if you've got your thumb on the analog stick here, then you're going to find it hard to press the other buttons to do what you need to do. But you can see it's working around up on screen there. So it would be handy for maybe a game like Pac-Man or something like that, but I haven't got any games that I can show you this working, so it's not actually going to do anything. Right, let's move on to the last one. And lastly, we have the U-Force. So this is a controller from the NES years ago. So basically this one here, you can see the cables going around to there. This time it goes to one of those NES Mayflash converters that you've seen before, but it terminates in a USB port here into the Cronus Max. You do have to program it as well for each game, and then it goes into the Brook PS4 to Wii U converter. So these are the adapters that you need. This one here is the Mayflash one. NES, SNES to PC. Then you've got the Cronus Max and the Brook Game Converter. So with the U-Force, we don't physically touch any buttons, we just hover our hand over different sensors on the screens down here, and you will see they will correspond to different inputs on the controller. So here we have left, right. I've also got up and down on the edge sensors, and then I've got two sensors over here for A and B. So let's go to the loss levels. And let's choose Luigi. Now it's incredibly hard, and I'm no good at this anyway, but if you have a look, that's right, left, and then this one would be to dash, and this one is to jump. Ooh. Obviously this is like 100 times harder than using the controller, but there's some people out there that have actually got used to doing this and they can play games really well on it. Obviously I'm not one of them. Right, okay, well you get the basic idea of it anyway. So there we go, that concludes this video. Loads of different controllers working on the Wii. Even though they were never designed to work on this, by using 1, 2 or more adapters, you can pretty much get anything to work on it. And what do I think of the Wii? I actually like it. I think it's a pretty good system that's still really cheap. You can get it now second hand from high street game shops like, CEX, for around £25 for a discounted one, so one with a few scratches and stuff. Prices are definitely on the increase because this time last year it would cost you under £20 to get one, so prices have definitely moved up around 20%. The games are still really cheap, loads of games to choose from for 50p, a pound, £2. Under £5 will get you the majority of games. Some of them are more expensive. If you want like Mario Kart Wii or Super Smash Bros. Brawl, then they're popular ones, so they're going to be more money. But loads of games to choose from. Personally, I wouldn't be buying them from the Virtual Console because it's going to be going out in 2019, so you won't be able to use them anymore. But if you're happy getting physical discs, then it's a system to consider if you don't want to spend much money on it. Or, for example, if you want to buy something for maybe a younger child or something just to see if they're into gaming or not, then it's a good system to start off with, pretty robust, and the novelty of using the Wiimotes and stuff, it's all good family fun. So there we go, hopefully you enjoyed it. Please give it a thumbs up if you did, and please subscribe for more how-to videos. Take care, bye now.